Hey everyone, this is Chris from Just Fun Guitar, and today I've got a really interesting topic, I think anyway. This is a topic that's been floating around quite a lot lately, and that is about albums, are they still relevant? And I think for the last maybe 2-3 years, this has been an ongoing debate, maybe even longer, with musicians and the music industry. What do you think? Well, from what I can understand, there's some mixed opinions. It seems to be a generation gap that is coming into this topic because younger people quite often feel they don't buy a lot of albums and they're not as relevant as they used to be for us in our generation. But then again, opposing that, there's still a lot of young people that do buy albums and do love albums, buy certain artists or certain genres. It also seems that it depends on the genre as to the album sales. For example, a lot of people today just buy soundtracks. They just seem to be buying mixtapes or mixed albums that have multiple artists on there, and that has always been quite a popular thing. Back when I was young, things like Now Music and other sort of mixes were really, really popular, and people would go out and buy those and hear everything off the radio. But also, a lot of people just record it onto a cassette back in those days off the radio. These days, really people don't record much, I don't think. Music is almost free to most people because they have YouTube, they have so many things like Spotify and Amazon Music. Google Play has music on there, I believe. So there's so much in terms of opportunity to get free music to listen to. There's also various other platforms now that are just sort of emerging and becoming popular, and they're just really giving so much music away. So buying music has become something you have to really want to own to make you buy it. Also, downloading music has become much more popular than buying physical media. That appears to be the case. Now, I'm a little bit guilty of that. Sometimes I will download a record because I don't have enough space for my sheer massive amount of CDs I own. However, I'm still old-fashioned. I still enjoy buying CDs and having the full album art and all the personalities inside and having the tangible disc in my hand. I think that is still a collectible, and I'm willing to pay that bit extra for it. But I know I'm in a minority, and most people these days are just not willing to do that. So let's just have a look at some facts. When you look at album sales right now, if I take a look online, I'm looking at a website called mediatraffic.de albums, and it says United World Chart. Okay, and this is November 3rd. Number one selling album right now is Johnny Halliday, and it's Mon Pays c'est l'amour, and that has been produced with Warner Brothers in France, and it has 1 week at number one, and this week it has a total sales of 805,000 in a week, and that is an album. So that's pretty good, that's pretty strong. And I'm not saying that these numbers will compare with back from when I was young. I don't really know. I'm sure that people buy less albums these days, but still, it still seems pretty relevant to me because according to this, a lot of French people went out and bought that album. Okay. Number two, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born soundtrack. So okay, it's a soundtrack, but as far as I know, it's pretty much those two that have done all the music, as far as I know, and people they've hired. So it's kind of an album, and that is number two from Interscope, and it says here their total sales are almost 800,000 so far. That's incredible. And number three is Greta Van Fleet with an album called Anthem of the Peaceful Army, and so far they have sold 138,000 copies so far. So while these numbers might be fairly low compared to the past, I don't know, I do think that they're still relevant. Okay, I'm going to say one more. Number four is a band I like, Disturbed. Okay, their album Evolution is with Reprise, Warner Brothers, and they have so far sold 122,000 copies. So I'm going to leave that there. I think that it's clear albums are still relevant as a medium. However, less maybe than before. I think it depends. If you're a big artist like the people I've just mentioned, albums are absolutely relevant because you're selling them and people want them. What about for smaller bands that are less known, less fans, don't have that traction? How are they perceiving albums? Is it really worth all the trouble and the cost of producing an album and then they just can't sell it? Well, I think it depends on why you're making the record. If you're making it as an achievement and a landmark for your own life, go ahead and do it, because that's fantastic. And I think albums capture a space in time. A song does, but an album captures more and tells a whole story, or can do. That the best ones tend to have a continuity of some kind in there and a flow. And I think having that listening experience is something you remember. And some of the greatest iconic albums of all time stand out to people with the tracks and the order they were played in, and the period of time, and how it's so reminiscent of that. So I believe that albums are absolutely relevant still, and I think they always will be. But I do believe that if you're a small band and it's going to cost you a lot of money to make a huge album, bring the cost down. Today, there's no reason why you should spend too much to make an album. You can do it at home, you can do it in this small studio, and really control the costs and spread it out. So I don't think the financial obstacles have to be there too much to making an album. I think if you're trying to make this amazing album with expensive equipment and really just going to town on it, it's going to cost you some money. But just to get started, probably not so much, and build up to that ultimate thing. I also think that your fans will appreciate it, because if they're people that regularly come out and see you play and you perform, it's nice for them to have that to take home as a souvenir and go, yeah, I bought the disc from the show, that was fun, or I downloaded the music and could listen to it before the show and I was pumped to hear those tracks live. And they can do that with a single, but with an album you can do more. So I do definitely think, for me, I'll always buy albums. I do buy singles, but I'll always buy albums, and I think that it's always relevant. That's just my personal opinion. Now, bands that have questioned this in the past, people like Smashing Pumpkins, have turned around and said, is it relevant? I saw an interview with Billy Corgan, he actually made that point. Is an album still relevant? He doesn't know whether to put out another album. And I don't think he had huge sales on the last few albums that he did. But since Smashing Pumpkins have come back together, with the original members all but one, which is an interesting topic in itself, but that's happened, they are now putting out a new record. It's a new album. I think there's only 8 tracks at the moment on it. I pre-ordered it. It's relevant. There's a lot of fans for that band. It's going to be a hit. It's going to be fun. So I do think that shows you that these bands are still out there selling records. Alice in Chains just put out a new album, buy all their stuff. Fantastic. So I do believe that is not going to change. It's not going to go away. As long as there's those of us out there that buy them and like them, it's going to happen. Blues artists. I think blues fans like to buy mixtapes, but they like to buy albums. They enjoy the period of time, particularly artists that have gone now. People that are fans of Jimi Hendrix, they want those old discs because it recreates the era for them. So I've done enough talking. What do you guys think? And girls, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.